Now you're about to find out who turns off the light in our head and opens the gates of sleep. Why do we sleep a third of our lives anyway? Why do you dream about stupid shit, and does it make sense? How long can you stay awake? How do you learn to have conscious dreams? How does sleep repair your body? Can there be sleep within sleep? And how to pump up your bedroom for a royal sleep. The last recorded record for sleep deprivation was 11 days a young man was able to go without sleep. This back in the 1960s was recorded by the Guinness Book of World Records. He was watched for 264 hours. Randy Gardner described that he was talking to a road sign. Most likely he saw at this time a dream in a dream, while from the outside looked awake young man. He hallucinated on the fourth day. And the last part of this experience was conducted in a hospital because the doctors were afraid that something would happen to him because of such a long sleep deprivation. He only got 16 hours of sleep to get back to normal, so the various sleep deprivation experiments are not irreparably harmful. But do you know people who go 6 to 30 months without sleep? I'm talking about fatal familial insomnia that kills people. It's a rare genetic disease, the worst thing you can inherit. It affects generations within the same family, and there are only 40 such families in the world. A mutation turns one of the proteins in the brain into a dangerous pathogen. In doing so, it causes the brain to degenerate more and more, no longer controlling thinking functions, muscles, and blood pressure, and hormones. One of the symptoms is precisely sleep breakdown, in which the patient gets stuck between sleep and reality. Eventually he dies, but not directly from lack of sleep, but from brain destruction. That state between dream and reality can kill, or it can be beneficial. I'm talking about hypnagogia. Do you remember Salvador Dali's paintings? Very strange, but mesmerizing. Here's an example of how it works. Dali would place a metal plate on the floor and fall asleep over it with a large key in his hands. When his muscles relaxed, the key would fall on the plate with a clatter. And when he woke up, Dali would run to sketch the images he had just seen. Except that what he saw were not dreams yet, but hallucinations, vague images, and even sharp sounds. But the dreams begin later. Until the early 21st century, we thought that dreaming only happened in the REM phase of sleep. But now we know that's not true. In the slow phase, we dream about something too, just really boring stuff like screenshots from the recent day or twitchy diafilms that we rarely remember. In the fast phase, on the other hand, the dreams are the most vivid, movie-like. But why are they so strange? The first theory is called activation synthesis, but I'd prefer to call it dumpster cinema. Why? Because when we fall into a REM sleep, it's as if our brain sorts through memories and selects the ones that will soon disappear. It is these fragments that break into our dreams. Our brains are masters at connecting the unconnected, creating plots that can be completely illogical and absurd, like a movie edited blindly from different genres. Now let's move on to the second theory, threat simulation. According to this theory, our brains create nightmares to prepare us for real threats. It's like a training program in the Matrix. Can you imagine? Nightmares are our personal survival training program. So when you wake up from a scary dream, remember, your brain has just put you through a survival training course. But what happens when we don't just sleep, but move into the world of conscious dreams? Conscious dreams, as Matthew Walker suggests in his book, may be the key to understanding the next stage of human evolution. Walker, having spent more than 20 years studying sleep, suggests that the ability to have conscious and guided dreams may mark the birth of a new species of Homo sapiens. However, as is often the case with revolutionary ideas, his speculation may seem exaggerated. Nevertheless, history knows examples of people whose abilities and accomplishments went beyond the ordinary. A genius who had an experience of conscious dreaming who you wouldn't call an ordinary person. Meet Richard Feynman. He's so cool that when he was only 25 years old, the US government called him to the atomic bomb project, and that's not his only accomplishment, to say the least. He knew how to crack safes, played the drums brilliantly, and drew great pictures, and when he got the call to announce that he had won the Nobel Prize in physics, he said he was asleep and hung up. Yes, he liked to sleep like everyone else, but he loved puzzles even more. Ever since he was a child, Feynman considered sleep his unsolved problem, because when he was a child, his father gave him this riddle. Suppose Martians come to Earth, And these Martians do not know what sleep is. Well, they do not know this ridiculous phenomenon that we call sleep, and they ask you questions. What does a creature that falls asleep feel? What happens to you when you fall into sleep? Does the course of your thoughts stop, becoming more and more slow? As a student, he set out to solve the riddle of what happens to the stream of consciousness when we fall asleep. Feynman darkened the room, turned off the lights, and waited to see what would happen in the lead-up to sleep. And what do you think? He discovered a whole kaleidoscope of internal dialogues and visual images. Feynman learned to think about two different things at the same time, on the edge of sleep and wakefulness. It seemed like a cool trick, but it was useless because as soon as he realized it, the magic was gone. Our thoughts before sleep, he said, become more and more absurd and incoherent. It's only when we ask ourselves the question, where did that thought come from, that we realize we've already completely lost the thread of reason. And do you know what happens next? You fall asleep, and then comes the most interesting thing. Feynman realized that he had fallen asleep and began to observe his dreams. And they weren't just dreams, they were conscious dreams where he saw crystal clear images and could even control them. Think about it, a red-haired girl on a lawn with perfectly refracted sunlight. But like all of us, sometimes his dreams turned absurd. It's funny, but you know who's really the master in our body while we sleep? Not us, but our brain. Richard Feynman, that great scientist, was terrified of waking up. Why? Because every time he woke up, he felt paralyzed. Imagine waking up and your body's frozen. It's familiar, isn't it? That's what sleep paralysis is. Your brain thinks you are relaxed, but in fact, your muscles are still tense. And then, as soon as you enter the slow-wave sleep phase, bam! Your muscles relax. But when REM sleep sets in, complete paralyzation sets in. Your body becomes like a rag doll without the slightest tension in your muscles. But the uncontrollable muscles that control breathing and heartbeat continue to work. And there you lie, unable to move in the complete power of sleep. Have you ever had that happen to you? The irony of the situation is that during the dreaming phase, when you are completely still, your brain is buzzing with activity as if you were in a waking state. Our brain is blocking movement so that we don't start to actualize what we see in the dream. Interesting, isn't it? And here's another fun thing for you. Our brain has a system that blocks our movement during sleep. But what if I told you that sometimes this safety system fails? Yes, there are exceptions in the world of sleep. Welcome to the fabulous world of parasomnia. That's what sleep breakdowns are called, and some people even have to tie themselves to the bed because of them, and it's not BDSM, it's RBD, which is REM sleep behavior disorder. People who suffer from this disorder can physically replay their dreams during sleep, running, fighting off nightmares. The problem is that the connection between their brain and muscles is not disabled, and the movements from REM sleep are transferred to the real world. In some cases, people have to tie themselves to the bed to avoid injury. I've found the perfect opponents for them, sleepwalkers. Sleepwalkers, or scientifically speaking, people suffering from somnambulism. Unlike the previous disease, their brain likes to wake up, not in REM sleep, but in slow sleep, but not the whole. Only emotions, communication with the senses and movement are switched on, but the centers of memory and conscious decisions are asleep, or rather engaged in other matters. Therefore, the patient can suddenly get up, open the door to the backyard and pee on the wall, for example. It's creepy, isn't it? Stare at a painting, sing into the head of a mannequin, cook a hell of a meal, or on the contrary, eat half the fridge altogether and may still dance and tell delightful stories. Usually, sleepwalkers can only harm themselves, so it is recommended to put complex locks in the bedroom so they cannot go outside and cover all the sharp corners so they do not hurt themselves. For the rest of the people, sleepwalkers are harmless though until they have in their hands. Once 23-year-old Kenneth Parks was sitting at home in Canada just watching TV and fell asleep. He woke up in the house of his wife's parents with bloody hands. He had absolutely no memory of leaving the house, driving 20 kilometers, 12.4 miles, and beating his mother-in-law to death with a tire iron and a knife. He tried to strangle his father-in-law, but he managed to survive. You know how the story ends? He was acquitted. His brain waves were behaving erratically, like all his relatives. Plus, the day of the murder, he'd had 2 days sleep deprivation, a rugby game in the sun, and a lot of stress over depths. Guy's got a cocktail of genetics and fatal accidents. But the fact remains, in a small number of people, the synchronization of the process of falling asleep between different parts of the brain is so disrupted that complete disorganization occurs. People can talk, walk, drive, and even cook a meal without realizing what's going on. But what if this medical phenomenon is just the tip of the iceberg? What if everyday aspects of our lives, such as changing our sleep patterns, can have unexpected and dangerous consequences? Flight attendants have what they call a no-period schedule. The endocrine system is disrupted. The WHO lists shift work as a potentially oncogenic type of work. The risk of malignant tumors increases. There is nothing good in playing with time and time zones. This raises an important question: how can we fight jet lag, that unpleasant companion of long flights? To adapt to the new time regime, people often resort to supplements and melatonin, for example, which help the internal clock to adapt to the new time. Why is it always easier to fly west than east? Because preventing the onset of sleep is much easier than bringing the onset of sleep closer. To prevent the onset of sleep, which happens when flying to London, when you have to go to bed a few hours later, you have to activate the brain's activating systems a little bit more. Go to a club, dance, so you can get there. It is much easier to prevent sleep than to bring it closer. And if we fly, for example, to Tokyo, it is virtually impossible to make our sleep centers turn on 5 to 10 hours earlier. Well, now we can ask the main question: why do we need sleep at all? I don't know, to give our brains a rest, I guess. It seems like there should be some sort of answer, but there isn't. Your brain never rests, forget it. Even when you fall asleep, it doesn't rest. What's the logic then? I will say, I like this formulation. If the brain explores the external world during the day, it explores the internal world at night. During the day, the cells of the cerebral cortex diligently gather information from our eyes, ears, and other senses. And at night, they switch to the internal organs. For example, did your intestines do something wrong? The brain immediately recognizes it and sends a command to fix it. Scientists have even tested this in animals. Stimulate the stomach with electricity and it's like the brain shines even though the animal is asleep. It's like a nighttime brain cell part. And here's something else interesting about slow-wave sleep. Imagine your brain cells shrinking in size a bit and a wave of cerebrospinal fluid running between them to flush out debris and toxins from your brains, including those toxins that cause Alzheimer's. It's literally brainwashing, but not harmful, quite the opposite. And let's not forget about growth hormone. In slow-wave sleep, it is produced as much as 80% of the daily norm. It helps not only babies to grow, but also adults to recover. But we set records for sleep even before birth. Up to 98% of the time in the womb we sleep. But what's surprising is that by the 7th month, the fetus turns on slow and REM sleep cycles. It moves its eyes in its sleep and appears to dream, and also, even before birth, we start yawning. Look how creepy that looks. If you're like, I'm already grown up, why do I need growth hormone? I'm only growing wider. You need growth hormone too. It acts like super soldier serum and Wolverine regeneration at the same time. Growth hormone stimulates protein synthesis, cell division, and tissue regeneration. So your wounds heal mostly at night when it's at its greatest. Growth hormone also makes adults more beautiful by preventing baldness and dry skin, as well as preventing rapid fatigue and brittle bones. It also burns fat. You even lose weight while you sleep. How's that for a fitness plan? Slow sleep brings order on a physical level, and fast sleep brings order on a mental level, sorting all the information gathered during the day into important and unnecessary. And how does that happen? Slow sleep brings order on the physical level. What does fast sleep do? Right? It puts it on the mental level, sorting all the information collected during the day into important and not necessary. And how does that happen? Every time you learn something new or do something unfamiliar, new connections grow between neurons. These are the outgrowths. And the more often you repeat this action, the stronger the connection. Later, they are also covered with myelin. This is an upgrade to better conduct current and therefore faster thinking and more accurately reproduce our skills. And during REM sleep, it's like the brain is doing a revision. The funny thing is that if you give your muscles a workout like exercising, your slow-wave sleep lengthens. And if you are agonizing over your thesis or thinking about love affairs, your REM sleep lengthens. It all depends on what you've been doing during the day. Now I'll spoiler some tips to help you sleep better tonight. The first one is to wear socks without a rubber band. Yes, it sounds funny, but it's serious. For a good night's sleep, the temperature of your feet and thighs should be the same, and those who sleep in socks have longer sleeps and 70% fewer awakenings in the middle of the night. Second tip, any light during sleep is your number one enemy. Even the light of a flashlight through a curtain reduces melatonin production. There is a solution: hang impenetrable blackout curtains. Computers, gadgets also give unnecessary light. Besides the most invigorating blue part of the spectrum, it is better to use warm yellow lamps before going to bed, and on your phone, turn down the brightness, put dark and yellow theme. And the air also matters, so do not blow it. Properly ventilate the room, or better leave a small slit. McNee, the temperature to taste. From 18 to 25 degrees Celsius, 64.4 to 77.0 degrees Fahrenheit, and the ideal humidity, according to test subjects, is 55%. So a humidifier is your bro when the radiator burns in the winter, especially. Also, pick up a comfortable, medium-firm mattress. Yes, according to the most taxing, there are no mattresses to improve sleep, but you'll fall asleep faster on a good one, and your back will thank you in the morning. And as an experiment, try a weighted blanket, wrap yourself in it like a shawarma, and feel like you are being cut.